Already did it. What's going on, everybody? Pete Canario here with the rest of the RE Solutions team on this week's Tidbit Thursday. I wanted to join in on that.
You're a little late, though. You're supposed to do it at the get-go.
One, two, three. There we go. That's silly. But anyway, want to what is it?
Wait, you put your thoughts?
Yes, I just lost everything. Messed me up.
So today is Tidbit Thursday.
Yes.
And
I want to thank you for joining us for this week's Tidbit Thursday. Today we're going to be talking about homeowners insurance. And we have a special guest with us today.
Erica from Goosehead.
Erica from Goosehead. So just stay tuned and we'll be talking to her in a second. That's our little intro. You like that there?
Started bopping to the beat.
Wow. Well, before we get Erica on here, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about ourselves. If you don't know who we are RE Solutions. We are a residential real estate and property management company that loves to help and educate individuals find solutions for all their real estate needs. And we do that by doing this Tidbit Thursday and other seminars that we will talk about a little bit more later on after we talk to Erica.
Mm-hmm. And know, I think we've been so blessed to run into people who have the same mentality as far as just helping people through educating them about every process. I mean, we've had lots of great guest speakers up there.
Yes, we sure have, which is awesome because, and I've shared this story before, that Denise and I never really bought a house while we were on our active duty Air Force career because we did not know anything about buying a house. So we kind of stumbled through it in our 18th or 16th year mark, something like that. But that's our key thing now, right? We want to go out and actually educate individuals on the house purchasing experience or house selling experience or the landlord experience.
Mm-hmm.
So,
to make it as
and positive. You're right. We've been very lucky to find individuals like Erica and other individuals that have helped us educate individuals. So
even more individuals.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So let's bring her on.
Without further ado,
this is Erica from Goosehead Insurance. What's going on, Erica?
Hi, guys. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me to come on and, share the good word about, extensions of your home purchase process. It's a long process, but you got to make sure that you have everything in order. And I know that, RX Solutions is behind their clients 100% on that, and bringing people like me on to help with that process is just, I'm very grateful and blessed to have be a part of the extension of this team. So homeowners insurance, right? Insurance in general, pretty much. It's kind of like, do you have it? Do you not have it? And a lot of the times it's like, well, what about the details? Do I have enough coverages? And a lot of the times, and what I've seen is a lot of the times we don't have the right, maybe enough coverages, or maybe some things are like the most important things are left out. So definitely want to go over what homeowners insurance actually covers, what it doesn't cover, what it can cover, and then your options. And Goosehead Insurance is, going to be here for, it's going to make sure that you're going to get the exactly what you're going to be needing for your home purchase. And not even your home purchase, actually be, an existing home that, you've had for so long, and you go over your policies and you're like, well, something happens. You don't have the coverages you thought you had. And that's what Goosehead Insurance is actually, strives to make sure that our clients know exactly what they have, what's covered, and, potentially, what they can add on or take away. Sometimes we actually have I don't know if I've come across where some clients actually they're paying for too much, that they don't even need. So that's what Goosehead Insurance is here to help guide those clients and making sure that they know exactly what they have and, what they need.
So, because lots of times, at least for the home buying process, I believe, you have all these key players, realtor, lender, title company, whatever. But then in the back end, they say, call your insurance company so you can set up your insurance.
Yeah, they
They
kind of
don't,
just
they don't really make it as important as it should
Yeah,
be, right? Because
exactly.
it didn't declared.
Well, you have to have it. You
Yeah.
know, if you're gonna have a loan, and it impacts what your monthly mortgage rates or not rates, sorry, your monthly mortgage payment will
Yes.
be. So
Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've come across to where, like just like Pete's saying, if your lenders are going to throw you like, oh, here, just get this policy. And there's sometimes where they go into forced insurance, where they get the policy for you. You have no idea what you have. You're going in blind,
Sure.
and you're like so dependent on that lender. Like he's got my back. But honestly, not that he does, not that they don't. It's just they're just more of like they're hitting that dollar amount. They want to hit that, that exact dollar amount that they need to hit, and sometimes that can, you kind of pay for it in the long run if you don't know exactly what you're covered for.
Yes.
So I'm again excited to be here and kind of share this information with these clients because it's such an important thing that we don't, pay too much detail to. So I'm here for that. I'm here for the clients, making sure that they do know exactly what they have and, helping them to the best of my abilities to make sure that they, get what they need.
That's awesome. So
Start the slides.
yes, so you have a couple of slides here.
Oh, yes, I put together some slides. That's just my intro. And we can go on to the next one if we can.
Okay.
So starting off with, again, what is a standard policy cover? So your standard policy, you have your dwelling coverage. That's like the bread and butter of your policy there. That's going to be what it costs to completely replace your home in the case that it falls to the ground, God forbid, that if you completely need to rebuild the home, this is the amount of coverage that you're going to have for your home. Right now, my average of what I'm seeing, I would say, homes are getting a lot more expensive these days. So maybe between $350,000, $400,000 for a new build home. So that's where you're going to want to make sure that you have that coverage. This is where you see underinsured policies. Your house was valued at $250,000 a few years ago. But now, inflation, the cost of building goes up, cost of materials goes up. And you want to make sure that you're reviewing your policy. If it's not a new build, that you're reviewing that, making sure that you're adding coverages to match that inflation. So dwelling coverage, how much is my home worth? And do I have enough coverage to rebuild this home in the case that I need to rebuild from the ground up? Okay.
That's a good point, because I've never done that.
We haven't either. I'm like, put that on the checklist.
Yeah.
Actually, we have, but just not taking care of it for us.
Yeah.
But
We have.
And that's again what Goosehead's going to do for their clients. Even if it's again, you already purchased a home, you already have a policy in place. I'm here to review it for you. If you're sitting in a good spot, I'm definitely going to let you know, hey, you're sitting in a good spot. You're going to be 100% covered in the case of, and, or we can find the options to, if you need more, or again, in the rare case that I've seen now, if you need less, because you don't want to be overpaying as well. You want to save some money where you can. And that's, again, we're going to be able to save that when we, determine dwelling coverage. And how we determine dwelling coverage is we do what we call is a rent cost estimation. Okay, so I'm going in online. I'm looking up the address. I'm looking up the build of the address. I'm looking at pictures. I'm looking at what grade of kitchen appliance, like cabinets, what the grade of the restrooms are. Are they luxury? Are they builder's grade? That's going to make a really big difference in your cost estimation. So we review that, making sure that it matches what you actually have in the home, and then that's when we get that that number. Hey, it's going to cost $350,000 to replace this home, or less, or more. So that's that main thing. That's like as soon as I open a policy, that's like exactly I'm going to start there. Making sure that we have that coverage.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Cool.
so what about for the investment?
Say that again.
regarding the investors, so we have investors that own multiple
Yeah.
rental properties, right? That would be something that they would still want to make sure to.
Yeah, when you do your rental property, the exact same thing. You want to make sure that you have enough coverage to cover that property, especially on your renter's policy, because that's going to be the most important thing on investors, because you're not going to really have contents in your home. You're not going to have personal contents in that home. That's for the renter to get on their own. They can get a renter's policy for their contents, but their landlord, the shell of the home, that's going to be the most important thing that you have covered on your renter's policies. And we do determine those costs the same way as we do with a regular home policy.
Good to know.
Awesome, nice.
All right, next slide.
Your next coverages that you're going to want to make sure that you pay close attention to is your liability coverage. So liability, what is liability? It's your responsibility. Your responsibility when it comes to that home. You're responsible for guests. You're responsible for the mailman if he walks, trips and falls on the sidewalk. I just actually saw a video of an Amazon delivery guy going onto a porch, getting almost attacked by the family dog because he's trying to deliver a package. Well, if somebody gets hurt on your property, you're liable for that. And we're in what we call a sue happy nation, unfortunately. And if somebody comes and, wants to take you for all you got, you want to have liability coverage. Minimum $300,000 minimum for liability on when it comes to like maybe protecting yourself and your home. I always recommend the highest that I can do is $500,000, $500,000 liability coverage on your home to make sure that you are covered in the case of an extension of liability coverage. And it's not on my slides, but it's umbrella coverage. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of, if you guys ever heard of umbrella coverage and what that covers. Umbrella coverage is an extension to your liability coverage, and we can actually go up to $5 million extension on your liability coverage. Just in the case of if you have, over a $500,000 home, $1 million home, you're gonna want extra liability coverage. Just in the case that somebody comes and wants to sue you, you actually have that sue money available for you. Another thing is that comes with the liability is medical payments. People come up like, oh, I'm not going to sue you, but can you pay for my medical bill because I stubbed my toe or broke my foot on your steps. You have medical coverage as well on these policies. So you'll have your liability limit and then your medical limit. So those are two coverages that you would want to make sure that you have for your liability.
Okay.
All right.
That's awesome.
Does that make
yes, and I imagine somebody who has a lot of assets would
absolutely
need that additional umbrella.
Yeah. So like you said, you have that, you have your value of your assets. It's over $500,000. I always recommend adding that umbrella coverage on top of it so you can get that extension of, just to cover yourself and cover your belongings.
Makes sense because you don't need it till you need it.
Yep, you don't need it till you need it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you never know, like it can be, again, you don't even have to be home and the mailman comes and trips over your front doorstep and he's coming after you with the medical bill or wants to, take your car. Yeah. I don't know. It happens.
Gonna make me look at my porch in a different light now.
Exactly. And some carrier, and you have to, I will say that, some carriers I work with over 40 different A+ carriers, and I have seen where a carrier will even deny because something like that, they'll take, go on an aerial view of your home and, look and see that the steps are cracked or you have cracks on your sidewalk. And they're like, you know what, we'll cover you, but you got to fix that first.
Oh, wow.
So it does happen. And, we can always advise, when a carrier comes and he says, oh, these things need to be fixed before we can give you that liability coverage or the policy in general. We can actually refer you to, to get some resources to maybe fix the home. Or we can always reshop, but we're always going to let you know, like, hey, you might want to get that fixed. So just in the case of,
So like missing boards on a porch.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could be important.
It could be important.
Yes, it is important. Absolutely. That's like the main reason why it's important to fix things like that, cracks, the tree stub that's sticking out of your yard, just those little things that you don't think about every day until something happens.
Yeah.
that major crack in your driveway
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
when I learned about that, I was like, I really need to get my driveway repaved personally. Next thing on your main coverage or your policy is your belongings. You worked so hard to, fill that home with your belongings, your furniture, clothes, anything that belongs to you in that home, your belongings coverage. Okay. Protects all items inside the home, pays for repairs on that home. And there's also other endorsements that can be added, on attached to your belongings coverage. Usually it's maybe about between 50-60% of your dwelling coverage. So it depends on how much dwelling coverage you have to where what a carrier is going to offer you for your belongings coverage.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. What else? What we got?
So the actual the levels of coverage. So you actually have options for actual cash value. So meaning that if in the case that something happens, they're going to be giving you a depreciated value, of the belongings that are in the home. Usually that's not something I always recommend because when you lose something, you want to usually get it at full replacement cost. And that's always something that I recommend my clients when I'm writing their policies is instead of going actual cash value, which you can, it is going to bring down the premium, but to replace your items at actual cost value is something that I always recommend. You're always gonna making sure that you're getting those items back to you the way better than what you left them. So
Yes.
that's super important. And then you also have your extended costs. So if you want a little bit more, the inflation again, you have $350,000 coverage on your home, but hey, I know cost of building these homes is going up every year, and you can actually add extended cost on top of the policy. So there's always going to be that option to get more than what you need if just in the case of. Usually you can get 25. I do have some carriers offering 50% extended coverage. So that's always, an option for my clients when it comes to how much coverage should I get on my home. So
That's something that people can start with, if they're young couples or starting out, they could kind of start lower, but then increase it over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They start off with, their small little home or they add to it. I think I had a client the other day that, added another, little extension of their home in the back and they needed a little bit more coverage. You have to report the extensions and everything, but you want that extended cost coverage to cover it's usually for inflation pretty much. That's like what only the carriers are going to offer that coverage for.
And boy, we got some inflation going on right now.
I know. So definitely on all my clients' policies, we're actually putting that. It's like a standard right now for us to be putting that extended cost coverage on there because of, the way the times are right now and, just everything just keeps on going up.
That makes sense. Or
So,
you had like expensive things like art.
We don't have art.
Well, you do.
It's in storage.
So what exactly, what exactly has to happen to the home to, so I can get, replacement costs? So what does it cover and what kind of perils does it cover? So your dwelling coverage, it's your basic, and the fire, your wind, your lightning, hail, vandalism, theft, those are like the main perils that happen that your insurance would go back and cover. Now there are some exclusions, which I think I have a slide a little bit further down that they have a list of exclusions. Usually acts of God is what they say, earthquakes, flood, and then there's also an option to add endorsements to your policies to add those perils on top of the basic perils that your policy is going to cover. Your other structures coverage, it covers any sheds, garages, anything that's detached from the home that still sits on the property. fences, that's something you want to make sure that you have enough coverage for. It's usually about 10% of the dwelling coverage for your other structures. It can be, you can raise that in the case that you have like a, maybe like a second little, what they call like a mother-in-law shed in the back. That's something that,
Yeah.
that's a, pulled that one from my client book. That's actually happened several times. And then you want to need a little bit more coverage on your other structures. You can definitely add that. We talked about personal property coverage and making sure you can always adjust, usually 50 to 60%, but you can go higher, increases the premium, but depends on what you have and what kind of belongings you have. And then we already spoke about the liability coverage. So optional coverages. These are the main coverages that I always recommend. They're optional, but they're probably the most important coverages to have on your policy. Foundation. Your foundation is something that, of course, you want to make sure that is covered. That's what the house sits on top of, and you want to make sure that that's always in good hands. What these foundation endorsements cover are, water. In the case that water, comes in, shifts the home and it cracks the foundation, you want to make sure that your foundation is covered with that. So that's actually something standard that I put on all my clients' policies. I actually would rather tell me that, like, hey, I'd rather not have it, but I'm always going to present foundation coverage on a policy. Another thing that I'm always going to recommend and always, quote is water backup, water seepage. The difference. Do you guys know what the difference is between a water backup and water and seepage?
Well, we do from property management side, but you can go ahead and explain.
So water backup, back exactly what it is. Your backup from your sinks, backup from toilets, any kind of plumbing. You're going to have that backup. Somebody throws, a toy or, a clogged toilet, and it just comes and it just, overflows and seeps into your home, damaging floors, ceilings. I think you had another, a realtor that mentioned that he got all his clothes damaged from, a water backup. Mm-hmm. Seepage is going to be if water seeps out of maybe a water heater and you had no idea that this seepage was going on until a week later when you have, soiled, it's a, dampness that you didn't even know was there. That's that seepage coverage. And they're two separate endorsements. You want to make sure that you have both on your policy, because those are like the most common perils that actually happen, and most, claims that are water and foundation. So those are optional coverages that I always quote. They're never going to be optional for me. I can always remove them, but they're never going to be optional for me when I quote out somebody's home. They have to have that. Service line is also something I can always go without the service line, but it's for repairs for water, anything that comes from the city into the home, usually water lines. It's going to help with repairing that in case that those get damaged. So example, you have a nice big tree sitting in your front yard and the roots overgrow and they, cut the pipes or, they crack something and you don't have that coverage on your policy. If you have the endorsement of service line, you'll actually have coverages to make sure that that is covered, and you have some insurance to make sure that that's taken care of. Because you got to dig up the ground, you have to fix the issue, and then re-put all the cover everything back up, and you want to make sure that that's something you have, especially if you have a home that actually has. I always like to use the tree thing because that's like the main thing that I see service lines getting affected by, is like those roots of big trees. If you don't have it you don't have that situation in your property, that's something that you can possibly maybe leave out. But so, I'm always going to go over and making sure.
Water seepage and leakage
is
within the home, and the service line is outside. So if there was a leak out in your yard and you don't have that service line, you can't use the water seepage or leakage.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, property insurance cases of loss. Okay, so we'll probably go on to the next one. So things that determine what the premium is going to be Your premium is determined by several things. Your claim history, and that's going to be on the history of the property and in the insured. So if there's been a claim on the property itself, it wasn't even yours, it's probably from the previous owners. That can actually make a big difference in the premium. And then if in the case that you've actually made any claims for any properties that you've owned in the past, that can be a factor when it comes to your premium. Community location, where exactly is your community? Where is that in the city? That will make a really big difference when it comes to your premium as well. It's crime, they're going to take that into consideration. Maybe like the amount of claims in a certain area, that can actually make a big difference in premium as well. The coverage options, of course, and the amounts of coverage you're going to be wanting is, of course, that's going to be a really big, that's going to play the biggest play in your premium amount. And then the condition of the property, do you have a updated roof? Did you fix that sidewalk? Did you fix that driveway? In the case that we find some carriers that were willing to take it on, they might take it on, but for a higher premium. And then your credit, of course, that's something, even with we're purchasing a home, we're going to expect their credit to make a difference in what we're paying.
That's crazy that credit is
I didn't know that
is a factor in.
It is, yeah.
Wow.
Almost everything nowadays, but yeah, it does play a small factor in when we rate. Sometimes I'll actually have a client and they have two insured, like a husband and a wife, and I pull quotes for the husband and then the wife rates better because she has a better credit score. So that plays a difference. So when I do a two or more insured, I'm making sure that I'm running the quotes with, everybody that's going to be on that policy, just to make sure we're getting the best rates possible.
Yes,
Nice.
that makes sense.
Just some homeowner knowledge checks. Most common policy type is an HO3, which is actually going to be giving you the most coverage automatic. There's different forms. It's an HO1. An HO3 gives you more perils protection. So the more they get you the basics, but then it actually adds, more specific perils. And every carrier is different, but it adds a little bit more protection. So HO3 is like the basic that I will go to in the case that you want, we don't need that much coverage, or, the house is a little older. I might put you in a different form where you just pretty much get your basics, but especially for new homeowners, HO3 all the way, always. And then there's some carriers that even actually have, even better forms as well. We talked about cash value versus replacement costs. One thing, exclusions. This is where I have a little bit more exclusions that, usually the carriers are not going to, they're not going to cover, which include, the earthquake, flooding. You can get your own policy. You have flooding in Texas. You have to have, especially if you're in a high flood risk zone, you're going to have a flood policy if you're buying new.
Houston.
Yeah.
On your flood zone, and I will do a flood determination on the address to see where you're sitting as far as flood zone. In the case that it does need it, we're going to give you an automatic flood quote as well, because that's going to be something that a lender requires you to have if you're in a high risk flood zone. If not, it's not required most of the time, but it's still, again, just in the case that you better have it than you not have it. And usually, like average, I would see like a flood policy, depending on the value of the home, around maybe about $400, maybe between $400 and $600 for the year, which is really not bad. Power failures, neglect, war, nuclear hazard. These are some of the things that just not in the insurers are just going to be excluded all the way around usually.
War. They put war.
I know it you never know, but they have to cover themselves, I guess, too.
They don't have Godzilla up there though. So
They don't have what?
Godzilla.
Just saying.
Yeah, of course, any intentional causes caused by you, of course, your insurance is not going to cover things like that, and any government actions.
Of course.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and then just some fun facts. A single fire can increase your rate. So making sure that you protecting your home against, as much as you can against things like fire, your smoke detectors. If you have a fire alarm, if you have a sprinkler system, those are actually going to help your premiums. But if you actually have a claim, it actually will increase your premiums even for other locations by 20%. So protect your home as best as you can by, getting all those safety precautions in place. 2 and 3 homes in the U.S. are underinsured. You don't have enough insurance, and it's, again, especially with the way things are climbing. Check your policies, making sure that you have enough coverage to cover the home in case it needs to be rebuilt.
Right.
And then my most common homeowners insurance discounts. How do we save money on these policies? Like, do I qualify for multi-policy discount? Am I bundling my auto? Right now, bundling is so popular. I think like every insurance commercial that I see right now is bundle, bundle, bundle. And because you're getting multi-policy discounts on these policies, are you adding a renter's policy for maybe investment property you have, your home, your auto, your umbrella coverage, that extra liability? Bundling with a carrier is going to definitely making sure that you're saving some money and getting those discounts. Automatic payments. You want to make sure that you're, making it easy. You're getting a automated electric transfer payment or a recurring credit card. If you use that method of payment versus calling it in and making that payment every month, you're going to get some discounts there as well. Paperless discount, no paper, everything's online. I think almost every carrier is giving a discount for that right now. Advanced quoting. You want to make sure that you're, trying not to get this insurance last minute. If you can do shopping ahead of time, I would say at least 2 weeks ahead of time, where you're going to need the effective date to be, that are going to give you an advance shopper's discount, which is great. Claims-free discount. If you don't have any claims, you're definitely going to get some savings there. Protected devices. I talked a little bit about that, making sure you have your smoke detectors. Water detection. That's something new that I've actually seen a lot more homeowners putting in their homes these days is water detectors, and making sure that it will detect and see if there's any kind of seepage and leakage that you might not know about. Sure. So that's something I always recommend my clients to as many protected devices as possible. Usually the carriers will require evidence, but it's just like your receipt or your payment that you make every month on these devices. We can provide that to the carrier and they give more discounts.
Nice. Discounts are always good.
Yeah.
So the more we can get, the better. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So we are at the 32-minute mark. So I want to make sure that if there's anything that you feel that needs to be said before we start wrapping up. I don't know if there's
I think that's like the main. I really just hit those main things. I got through all the slides that I wanted to go through, just to make sure that we're getting the clients their information, the right information to make sure when they're purchasing that homeowner's policy, making sure that those specific things are on there and what options you have as far as like how much coverage you need.
It does sound like basically it's very individualized.
Yes,
So
every situation is different.
You got to reach out, Erica. She'll take care of you. Her and her team, they're amazing.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, anytime. I mean, we're here. We're ready. We're here to quote. We're ready to quote now. You need to double check your policy. You need a new policy, whatever the case may be. We individualize everything, and we're ready to go. 7 days a week.
And I know people are going to ask if they're checking on a new policy and they have to have their credit pulled. Is it a hard pull?
It's a soft credit. So it's not going to affect your credit, just to check these out and get these quotes done. It's definitely don't hesitate. It's not going to affect you.
That's awesome to know.
That's
so
awesome.
It's important, kind of like keeping an eye on it.
Thank you for asking that question. Absolutely. That's sometimes it's like, it's going to pull my credit. Like, no, it is not going to affect you to get these quotes done. And we do the quotes for free.
Well, I appreciate you so much for taking time, and that was a lot of information.
Yes,
it was a lot.
It was a lot, but it was so
It was
good.
good.
Yeah.
No,
It was
it was
nice and compacted. Yeah.
Well, I'm here.
Yeah.
If you guys have any, anybody in the pipelines now that needs a quote, please don't hesitate. I'm ready whenever you guys are.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
got it.
Sounds good. All right, Erica. Well, thank you for being on here, and
Thank you for having me.
See you. Actually, we'll see you on Saturday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We'll see you Saturday.
Saturday. All right. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a lot of information.
It was really
Yeah,
good.
but it's a lot
It
of
makes
good
me want to
information.
call my homeowner's insurance policy now because I know,
You know what?
we definitely have enough dwelling.
I
but
have not
everything else she
checked that
referenced?
at all.
Mhm.
At all since we started. I mean, because same thing. Like we bought our house and they told us set up insurance, and we called the regular insurance company that we always use because
That's-
it's.
Mhm.
Yep.
And we told them what was happening, and they said do this. And
Yep.
I'm like, okay. And
That was that.
15 years later, we're still paying on insurance that we haven't even checked on, and
Yes.
we've only made one claim on.
Your insurance
Yeah.
policy is going to be for your
So-
house when you bought it. $200,000.
Yeah, and that's probably what
Yep.
it is because we haven't checked on it. So that's
For
a
real.
lot of good information to know at least once a year.
And now we
check
have a
up on it
hookup,
and
so
stuff
we
like
know
that.
like
Yeah.
they're not just trying to sell us some random policy. She's
Actually
legit.
helping you.
Yeah, she's there
Customize
to
it to
help.
you.
And
Yeah, that's good. So yeah, a lot of good information on the insurance. We will be doing a landlord seminar this weekend at Align Mortgage on Fairnon, which is off of I-10
I-10.
and De Zavala area, the main Align Mortgage building. So anybody that's interested in managing your own property. So once again, I always say this because a lot of people think that we're putting the seminar out there for us to get business or for us to talk to you about property management services. We're not out there to do that. We're actually out there to teach you or talk to you about how to manage your own property if you want to manage your own property, and how to keep yourself out of trouble. Some of the key things that people don't know, because we find a lot of owners, at least some owners, will call us and they have the attitude of they don't need a property manager until they actually
Till they need one.
till
Yeah,
they need
till-
one, right? Till they have problems and stuff like that, and that's not the case.
I wish
Really?
I would have known.
Yeah.
Well, you
so-
could if you
could.
show up.
So, and I like to educate individuals because we're providing homes to real people, right? And these
Yes.
are renters, they're tenants, and you should be providing a good, healthy, stable home for them. And of course, it's a business, it's an investment for you and stuff as a homeowner. But you have to look at both sides.
Texas
So-
property code is like this.
Yes,
this
Texas
big.
property code is pretty
So-
thick, and a lot of people think it sides on the owner. Some people think the leases side on the tenants. No, I mean it's to cover everybody, but yeah, you just need to know what you're doing,
Yeah.
so you stay out of trouble. So
Yes.
that's what we try to do on these these landlord seminars.
I
So-
was kind of laughing. If you wanted to manage your own home, come to the summer seminar to learn some of the very basic tips.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want a property management to help you, call us and we'll do an evaluation with
Yes.
you one-on-one.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to come over to the event, to the seminar and just listen and then decide to talk to us afterwards and stuff like that, that's fine. We will, gratefully just talk to you about our services and stuff like that. But either way, it doesn't matter. But that's this Saturday at 11 a.m. at Align Mortgage. So please be on the lookout on our Facebook for that. The week after that, we will be doing our buyers seminar.
Whoop, whoop.
And of course, we have other seminars that you can check out on our website or Facebook or Instagram or all of our places there. So please like, share, follow, and especially share, because we will love to expand our audience base and try to get more people to
In the know. Yeah.
in the know. Yeah.
And
So-
next week is our monthly market stats.
Ooh,
Yes.
market
Yes.
stats.
There's been interesting things happening here
Yeah.
all over
Yes,
but in
yes.
San Antonio.
Yes. So
So it's
yeah.
gonna be pretty cool next week. So anyway, y'all have a good weekend. If you're in San Antonio, try to stay cool
Oh,
because I am sweating right now just sitting here, and I can imagine because this
We're
100+ degree
conserving
weather.
electricity.
Yeah, I know this 100+ degree weather
Yes.
is crazy. I still prefer that over the cold, but try to keep cool, and we will see you next week.
Next Thursday.